threshold. Okay, we are just one shy of a quorum, so if you are a member and you haven't signed in yet, make sure to do that so that we can get the meeting started. Also, the pizza's here, so come on down and form a line. And as soon as the line dies down, that's when we'll start the meeting. So we'll try to get you out of here as quickly as possible. Thank you for being here. All right, can everyone hear me? If you're still eating, that's a good thing. In the interest of time, we'll move forward. If you could advance the slides. Okay. First and foremost, I will be conducting this meeting. I'm the board president this year, and I'm just honored to serve in this capacity and serve. We'd already planned into an official meeting instead of just a conversation, and hence the need for a quorum. The good news is, because so many of you signed in, thank you for everybody who did, we do have a quorum. We can conduct so that we discuss the issue. Yes, thank you. Next slide. Okay, so if you are in person, don't look at the QR code. If you are watching online, we will have a QR code for everybody in person. In a few minutes, we'll have so we can tabulate everything. Do the next agenda. We've already determined we have a quorum. We are on the agenda step, so check. Homeland Security Grant overview. We are going to talk about what the Homeland Security Grant is, what we're going to do with it. Then we are going to vote. Opportunity in. If you are online, you'll receive an email with this. But that's can. Then on from the. And then we'll provide results of the vote. And we'll get you out of here. So we'll try a congregational meeting in our last couple. So what's the next slide? Homeland Security Grant. Mark Beeler, I'm going to turn the time over to you for that. on the ballot, but it includes the amount. And again, just to recap, we are approving a loan from Special Funds Committee to front the money for the grant. And then the understanding is the grant will refund special funds. And it's the amount of 138, it's on the survey. Anyway, Ryan, can we go to the next slide? Okay, for everybody in person, use that QR code with your fancy smart pocket computer. And please vote. And those who are online, you should have received an email. You should have received an email just now that will go to the exact same place that everybody in person is going to. And I'll give everybody a second to grab the QR code, and then we'll move on, and then we'll loop back at the end of the meeting to tell you the results of this one vote. And if you have any trouble, if you're not able to vote for whatever reason, Tom Briggs is right here, and he'll just record your vote so you don't need to deal with the whole QR code thing. I was going to try to get everybody to do the QR code first, but we have Tom Briggs to save the day. All right. At this point, we'll move on to our next item. And that's a bylaws amendment, principles and sources. Dan McClanahan's going to speak to that. All right, well, can we turn the QR back on? Sorry.
I'm going to use this mic so I can read my notes. There's lots more pizza up here, people. Come and get it. Tom will take your vote. I have a quick question while we're waiting. Who got a text last night that reminded you about this meeting? Oh, good. Okay, if you did not get a text and you are a member of this congregation, you probably didn't get it because either we have the wrong phone number for you or it's not shown in our database as a mobile number. So if you didn't get a text and you'd like to get texts when we send them, which is very rarely, would you let Todd know at the office that you didn't get a text the other night?
Okay, this is the last call for anybody who needs the QR code. And again, if that's not working out for you, it's easy to just talk to Tom. He'll write it down, and so we don't need to hassle with that anymore. At this point, Ryan, can we go to the next slide? And Deanne, I'll give you the mic.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ryan. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the background, quickly, the background on this amendment we're talking about. Mary Rothschild made reference to it this morning. And the history is that the UUA changed their Article 2. So we used to have those 7 principles and 6 sources, which we love so much. And now we have our flower and our 6, what are they called? Not principles. Values. And so there was the board made a recommendation at the last annual meeting that we adopt those 7 principles and 6 sources into our Amendment 2, which is the VUU purpose. And at that meeting, it was suggested that we table it for further study for a couple reasons. One is we hadn't really discussed it with the congregation, and one was there were some changes made to the principles and sources the wording before it was proposed. So, so we tabled it, and the board appointed an ad hoc committee to discuss it and bring it back to the congregation for some discussion. So the committee met 3 times, and we took a recommendation to the board, and we said, here's what we want to do. And they said, we're not addressing this. We want you to take it to the congregation because we want the congregation to give feedback before the board decides what to, whether to propose it again. So that's where we are. Go ahead, Ryan. This is who was on the committee: David Shea, Janice Pitsley, Ann Schneider, Linda Muth, Linda Rand, Nancy Egley, Linda Stenholm, and Jody Freeman. Thank you all. Did I miss anyone? You. Me. I was there. So we met a few times, and we had some really good discussions. And we started at a place with, well, if we're going to change VUU's purpose, should we just add a bunch of words that were, from 1985 UUA Article 2, or should we look at it in the beginning and say, what do we like about what's in there? What do we want to change? Do we want to change anything? How do we go about doing that? So then it became a much kind of bigger thing. And we talked around that a lot for several hours. And here's where we landed, and this was a place that we all agreed, which was kind of amazing. It doesn't happen very often. We all agreed that there are enough of us in this congregation who really feel a strong attachment to those principles and sources. And we knew, they're not taking those values away from us. They're not taking the words away. But we wanted to make them a part of our Article 2 here and be able to preserve them, not because they're better than the new ones, not because they're different, but because for some of us they're what we grew up with, they're what we came here for, they're just important. And for some of us to whom they're not so important, and there were, some of that discussion, we thought, well, we should put them in there anyway for the people to whom they are important. So what we are proposing to you today, not for a vote, only for discussion, go ahead, Brian, is this is our existing Article 2. It's our mission statement, and it's our covenant. I think we use both of those today in the service. So you know what they are. They've been in there for a long time. We are proposing that we add a next section. Go ahead. And so the orange words are what the committee wrote. The white words are the existing words that are in the 7 principles and 6 sources. So we suggest adding Section 2.03, Principles and Sources. We, the VUU congregation, wish to retain and honor the language of the 7 principles and 6 sources as adopted by the UUA in 1985. As we have come to love and to live by these words, we wish to preserve them as both a significant part of our history and of our current covenant as a community. Next slide. The only words we changed here were to change member to members, strike congregations, add Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and then we left the 7 principles exactly as they have existed since 1985. Next slide. And then we added the 6 sources with no changes. And at the bottom, the only thing we changed was we changed as free congregations to as a free congregation. It's got to strike through. You just can't see it from there. So I will open it up for discussion. The next slide just says feedback.
I can't tell you how happy I am that that the committee has come up with this. I think it's incredibly important to me personally. It was the principles and sources, but particularly the principles. And the sources which admitted to the various religious traditions that brought us here, that sold me on VUU. It has always been important to me. My kids can recite the principles, or at least they could at one point. And so I'm very, very happy that we're proposing to do this and have it in our bylaws. It really does. The principles mean a great deal to me, as was clear in my sermon today.
I love what you've done with this.
Anyone else?
While I absolutely understand the desire to honor the traditions that brought many people here, I am still troubled by the exclusionary language of Judeo-Christian teachings. I'm sorry. I realize some people do not see that to be exclusionary, but I do wish to voice that I do so, and that is an issue for me that I would have to consider deeply before I could decide whether I could support this as written.
Thank you. Ryan, can you bring up a couple slides back? The sources. I just want to make sure everyone understands what we're talking about. One, go back down. The fourth source reads, Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. This is one of the 6 sources. So I understand what you're saying. It doesn't feel exclusionary to me because there's 5 others in there, but I do understand that's the issue, and that was what the board had originally proposed to change.
I just like to say I don't agree with that one, Dan, the fourth one, whatever it is. I don't agree with it, but this says that this tradition drew from it, which is true. So I don't have any problem with acknowledging that this was a part of our traditions we drew from, whether I actually feel that way or not, because I think this is true.
And I would like to add something that occurred to me this week while I was thinking about this. The other piece in that same source that has caused some concern is responding to God's love. There are a lot of us in here who do not call the divine God, not with a capital G, not with any other kind of G. But this is where our tradition came from. And it occurs to me that there could be a day when someone stands up at GA and says, the words Unitarian and Universalist don't really reflect what we are. Because Unitarian means what? One God. So, salvation, everyone is saved. And we don't necessarily think we need to be saved. So there may be bigger changes to come, people. This might be just the beginning. I had a couple over here.
I don't like it either because I'm an atheist, but I'm accepting it because it is part of our history as a Unitarian Universalist congregation. I did not like the edit because it left in God's love, but I prefer this because it reflects our history. I'm not going to go back and rewrite the entire Declaration of Independence because there's offensive language in it. It's a part of our history, and I'm going to honor that.
My question is what does it mean to put this and vote on it and put it on our bylaws? What purpose does it serve long term? What does it mean for our congregation? What does it mean to have it in there?
It seems to me this helps to for me, it helps define what Unitarian Universalism is and where we came from. The principles and the sources were the thing that I thought, wow, that's really neat. Maybe that's a church I could, we used to be a church. Maybe that's a church I could actually go to, because me too, I'm an atheist. I'm not going to go to just, you know. So I came here, and these are part of our history. I don't agree with all of them either, but I don't see any problem in incorporating this as part of our history. They are principles that have always been important to me.
And that's really why we added the introductory language. Can we, Ryan, can you go back about 3 slides? There. So that's why we added this orange text, which is hard to read. As we have come to love and to live by these words, we wish to preserve them as both a significant part of our history and of our current covenant as a community. Does that help?
I know it's the historian in me, but those of us who refuse to acknowledge and honor our history are often led in very bad directions.
I have a lot of mixed feelings around this, but overall what I hope we can do is I love putting this in as a kind of historical, and I want to acknowledge Mary today for her sermon in including also the new variation of this, because that's really that's where we are, and things evolve, and yeah, maybe Unitarian Universalists will disappear someday. I think it honors the past, and so I overall don't have any objection to doing this. I think it's a balance, right?
Well, first I'll answer the question on what it means to put these in the bylaws. It's not legally binding, but when we put it in the bylaws, they will be part of the state record with the Arizona Corporation Commission. So it'll be an amendment to our bylaws. So anybody who looks up our bylaws historically will see that it's been in our bylaws. I did have one question though, and this is something I was going to address when it came up the first time. Unitarian Universalist Association's also been debating adopting an 8th principle. Has there been any discussion about adding the 8th principle to the bylaws?
Well, there were some congregations that did add the 8th principle and put them into their bylaws, I suppose. I love that your orange paragraph, introductory paragraph to why you've done this. I think that makes all the rest of it make sense to me personally. So I think that's a good step. I just want to say one thing about what came before, the mission statement and the covenant. I don't think we pay enough attention to those, and that they are 2 different things. And as Mary's children memorized the principles, mine memorized the long covenant, not the 3 little statements. That's our mission statement, not our covenant. My kids did too. Yeah, but they're different. There's the mission, and there's the covenant, and then there's the principles.
When I became a Unitarian, I was an infant. I'm exactly the same age as the UUA, and that old. And the 7 principles didn't exist then. So my parents were drawn to the UUA from other words. And our children and their children will be drawn here through, who knows what. Maybe something we'll see in the future, maybe a new name for the denomination. We just don't know.
Yeah, to answer Joel's question about the 8th principle, it's all in the new Article 2. So if you read the 8th principle and you go back to the new Article 2, you see it's interwoven everywhere. So for all practical purposes, it's been adopted nationally.
Thanks, that's true. Mark?
Thanks. This was really difficult, and I appreciate Dan taking the heat off by being the first dissenter on it. I don't like adding this to our bylaws. I don't like what I think message it sends to people. Although we all have said that the 7 principles were fundamental in our becoming UUs, over time, many people have said that they don't represent what their experience is. And that's how the 8th principle and the new values arose. And so when we go back and we say, yeah, I see that you said that that didn't represent you, and I'll put this up on our thing, but those words that were uncomfortable and not representative of you, we're going to adopt and put into our legal document, our bylaws. And just as I probably wouldn't have felt good in 1985 when they added whatever they added in 85, if somebody came in and said, yeah, I like what you added, but I'm going to stick with what was pre-1985. I don't think women should be, included in our area. Or I don't think LGBTQ people should be included in our principles and bylaws. I think it sends the wrong message to the people we're trying to attract, new people to our faith.
Thank you. Any more hands? Oh, Ken?
So I guess it makes sense when I hear, like Joel's description, that this puts on the official state record who we are, and our current mission and covenant don't say that much. This says a lot more about what UUs are and what they're about. But I guess I have to ask myself, why didn't we never had it before? Why aren't we using the new Article 2 stuff, which also goes a long way to saying who we are and what we believe in? It kind of feels like we're just trying to do an in-your-face to the UUA, since we never had this before, and now that we need it, we're using the old instead of the new. Does anybody know why wouldn't we just use the new? Or why don't we put them both? Do we need them both? I don't think so. But I mean, we always felt like the UUA had them. That was enough. I don't know. So we're saying the UUA covers the new one.
I will say, looking back at the old changes, this is the first big radical change we've had. So in 85, they added a couple of things. They made the language less patriarchal, but this is a complete rewrite from scratch. So that's what's got some of us, how should I say, kerfuffled, yes, mournful, angry, suspicious, you name it. So that was the, to answer Ken's question, that was the genesis of getting this into our own bylaws. So we have some connection to our past. And the old folks among us, people feel like we have something in this that we can relate to. So those are the reasons as I see them, that this really isn't like 1985, this isn't like 1961. You can see genesis of our 7 principles in the 1961 document, but you can't see nearly as much of it now. In fact, the 6 principles completely gone in the new rewrite, and the other 6 are buried. So that's why at least that's why I'm active in doing this.
So there's your answer. It isn't in your face to the UUA. We're mad because the UUA changed our words.
I'm just wondering if we couldn't also put in there that we are part of the UUA, because we are.
We could have a whole different rebellion around that one. And see what you just opened up.
One thing, there were a lot of suggestions for other kinds of changes to put things in and not, And some of us were on that committee finally said, hey, wait a minute, let's just take it the way it was. Because there was this suggestion, that suggestion, this suggestion, and this would open up a whole brand new set of conversations. So it was really simply to keep it simple. In other words, just to keep it simple, not add this word or that word, or take away this word or that word. Just keep it simple and try to preserve these in our own bylaws.
Okay, I think we have lots of feedback. Oh, sorry, two more.
Thank you. I'm not really familiar with our document, but I wondered if it has to be at the front like that. Is there an appendix that it could go in, references or something like that, where it could go at the end instead of front and center at the beginning? And the other thought I had was maybe we could put some kind of a extra sentence in there saying how our beliefs are evolving. Not everybody maybe finds meaning in these now, but some kind of a caveat to it, that these aren't necessarily our current beliefs.
I just wanted to say that there's been a lot of feedback today, and I've appreciated hearing it all. And I wonder if there might be like a call for contributions from the committee if somebody really feels like they have something they'd like to write and have it be considered in that way, that we could all contribute that way.
So let's talk about what comes next. Today was for feedback. We have at least one other congregational conversation before this will be offered for a vote. And we would love to have your feedback. And so feel free to send it to me or any of the names you saw on the committee. We'll be sure to share it with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I know that that is an important topic that's dear to a lot of our hearts. Okay, now I'm going to turn the time over to Bill Elliott to give us a brief update on the solar team.
Okay, this shouldn't take more than half an hour. Basically, the Environmental Action Team, which a lot of you have heard of, and is a subcommittee, the Going Solar Dream Team, and the Dream Team was the inspiration of Deanne McClenahan, but it's a subcommittee of the Environmental Action Team, has been working for the past 2 years exploring how we might install solar panels and reduce our fossil fuel dependent electricity. And we're at a point where we have been in conversation with the board, and basically what we have decided to do is basically suspend our work during the pledge drive and focus on the pledge drive, focus our energies of working with the pledge drive committee in order to put VUU on an even more solid financial foundation upon which we can come back and say, okay, now it's time to make a capital investment. And one of the main proposals that's gotten traction is putting solar panels on covered parking in the parking lot. But nothing's been decided, and we will be coordinating with the board going forward. And so that's sort of a status update. We very much want we'll keep the congregation apprised, but we very much are committed, and that's I don't think I mentioned the members of the team. Jim Horton is a central member, Deanne McClenahan, Jerry Waters, who is a little shy about this, but he was really got us kick-started. And then Irene Vitullo and Linda Stenholm are also on the Going Solar team. And we welcome any ideas, inputs, or people who'd like to join the team. So are there any questions, suggestions? There's a comments?
I might have missed it if you said it, but we went to the board and said, board, we would like you to make Going Solar a priority for VUU for this year. And the board said, no, that's not our priority, for a lot of reasons. But I just wanted to make that clear that the solar team hasn't given up, but the board is not on board or pushing this as a project right now.
But, and that is why we've decided as a team to work with our focus on getting on the pledge drive and creating an ever more solid financial foundation for the congregation.
I just want to say that is much appreciated, the fact that you are publicly saying that, and that kind of attitude is, I think, the thing that we all need to focus on. As far as, the concerns raised by the Finance Committee long-term, I think are very valid. And I think, on a committee level or whatever level we're at, we need to focus on that and do what we can. So I know how important that is to you and everybody else. And so the fact that you would, as a committee, make that decision, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, that's the status report on Going Solar, and I hope that you will submit questions to us and maybe throw in your ideas and let us know if you've already installed solar looking at it. So, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Bill, and all the Going Solar team. I do personally believe that adopting solar here at VUU is very important, and just my own personal perspective as part of the board is that while we're evaluating trying to keep staff and keep operations going versus this other wonderful and ambitious project, we just can't divide our focus that much right now. But I do fully intend to come back to this. Okay, so the next item is results of the vote, and they are in. We received an overwhelming majority in favor of approving the grant, so that has carried. I believe it's 63-3. So overwhelming majority. Thank you very much. I believe that's the last slide. Yes. There we go. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody's attendance, and have a great day.